Welcome back to the show. This is 2025 lessons. It's been a big year, but as I'm sure you can relate to, the years go pretty quick. Time seems to fly by and, has it been a year where you've marched closer towards your dream life, or are you slowly letting things slip by? And that's how I feel like 2025 has been for me, and I'm sure we'll dive deep into that, into the lessons. But just to start with, it's been a beautiful 12 months of change, growth, experience in life, and look forward to diving into it with you all. So thanks for your support, whatever that looks like. But I'm truly, truly grateful for everyone who tunes into the show. It does make the world of difference. The show doesn't exist without the listeners, and the purpose of the show is to provide as much value as possible. So let me start by saying thank you, and I look forward to seeing what I can build and what we can build together going forward. In 2026 is going to be the biggest year yet. I've got a full plan, a big commitment, and we'll see. We'll let the episodes do the talking, but for now, let's see what 2025 has given us, because it's given us a lot to learn from, and I look forward to diving into it. Lesson number 1: the safe option is equally risky. Now, I feel like on social media, everything has portrayed taking the risk, going the entrepreneurial route, not following the safe path. It's always been characterized as a risk. There's a quote that I hear about, the greatest risk is the risk you never take. And that feels so true. And I think, why is that? Why? And one, I think because the safe option is equally risky, because when we think about risk, we're always looking at what we're conscious of. We're conscious of, what if it doesn't go to plan? What if things don't work out? But I think we overemphasize on the risk, what is actually risky, because at least we know we're doing something meaningful to us. So we're actually conscious and aware that, okay, maybe the money might not come there, or maybe it won't work out, but I know that it's going to be meaningful. So you're also really certain that you love doing this thing. So there's a calling for you. So you can be certain of that. You're also got to realize that when you take the safe path, you do the things that everyone has told you to do, you're super conscious of the fact that it's going to allow you to have certain things. You might have the secure job, you might have this safe relationship, and it's really easy to focus on the security of what you're going to have. But it's also equally risky, because how likely is it that those things are going to leave you fulfilled? I think you're taking a lot of the stab in the dark that it's going to actually leave you with fulfillment. I think that's a bit of a guessing game, and I think we don't realize that those things that we think are going to make us safe don't actually make us happy and fulfilled. So not only that, but I think we live in a world now where the safe option doesn't reward you as much as the entrepreneurial option. There are countless testimonials of how people have taken the safe path and things haven't worked out. They've gone bankrupt. They've made mistakes, they've had vices, because it's not like when you take the safe route, suddenly that like life is easy. All it means is you have more certainty on what you're going to get. That doesn't mean what you're going to get is, one, that good, and two, something you actually truly want. So that's important to take note of. Now, where I learnt this lesson from was not only my own life and where it's at, but I had many guests talk to me about it. Cameron Branch, who's host of the Hard Yarns podcast. Now, he's a full-time podcaster now, which is the area that I'm looking to go in. That's what I'm trying to build, a full-time career. And he was referencing this Jim Carrey speech, who we all know, and he's one of my favorite actors. And in 2014, he was hosting this, or he was actually speaking at this university. He was doing the commencement speech, and he shared the story of his father, who was a talented comedian, similar to himself, but he took the safe path, and he took the practical career of being an accountant to provide for his family. But the reality is his father ended up losing that job anyway. And it taught Jim Carrey a very early lesson on in his life. And he said, if you can fail at what you don't want, you may as well take a chance in doing what you love. And that really hit me when Branchy, who was on the show, was telling me that, because I was like, we always just think that taking the non-safe path and taking a risk means that we're sacrificing success. Like, if you know what I mean, like when we take the safe option, we somehow think we're just going to be happy. That is the hidden assumption that we're going to be okay. And I think there's a big difference between being okay and just getting through life and actually genuinely feeling the abundance and the richness that this life has to offer. And I think for a lot of us, we do need to take that path to actually feel the richness of this life. I know for me that with my self-awareness and the level of accountability I have for the life I want to create, like if I don't take the actions towards who I want to be, I feel it. I feel the gravity of inaction. And I used to demonize that side of myself and go, oh, I shouldn't be like that. What a beautiful thing it is to be hard on yourself, to be wanting to create a dream life that you've always had. What a beautiful thing to have someone on your shoulder keeping you accountable so that you don't let life slip by you. We treat negative thinking like this burden. Negative thinking can weigh us down 100%, but negative thinking can be the voice that we need to push us along to create the life we've always yearned for. And for me, I found a beautiful place of appreciation for it. You know, when I'm letting things slip by and it goes, hey, you said you're going to do this thing. You know it's what you truly want in this life, and it gives me that. Yeah, it can be quite direct at times, but that level of encouragement that I need. And I think if you learn to work with it, you can actually, you know how to pull the right strings out of yourself, and it comes from a place of love and not just fear. Like it's not the fear of what if I don't have my dream life. You learn to filter the ego in a way that pulls you towards love and not away from fear. And I think that's that's self-mastery, and that's difficult. And I'm still learning how to do that. I think we're always going to be learning, but I think it's equally important to realize that the safe option is equally risky, because what are you weighing as more important? I think we weigh our security as the most important thing from a primal aspect, but our fulfillment needs to be given more substantiation. It needs to be given more weight. And I think when you take that into consideration, the safe option is equally risky when you take into consideration the fulfillment. And just to finish this off with a Brené Brown quote, one of the most powerful quotes I love, she said, "What is worth doing even if I fail?" So what would you do in your life that even if it didn't work out, you could be proud that you actually did the thing because it mattered that much to you? And I think we all have that thing in our life where we go, that thing just creates this positive energy in my life. And yeah, it might not pay me at the start, or it might never pay me. But when I put time into it, it allows me to access this part of myself that I've never really found elsewhere. And why would I deprive myself of something that can give me that? Why? It begs the question. You know, we sacrifice the things that we love to live a life that we don't even know if we truly want. So it's interesting. There's also a bit of the psychological element to risk. You know, the status quo bias, where we think, you know, we think that if things continue the way they are, like it's going to be okay. But I think the world is ever changing, evolving, and if you don't adapt, you know, you're going to regress. Because I think stagnation leads to regression. When you don't take action, everyone else is improving, the world's improving, everything's evolving, and if you don't take action, yeah, things will catch you on by. So, yeah, take the risk. It doesn't mean it has to be done in a week, but it's important to remember that choosing the safe path does not guarantee you the life of happiness and fulfillment that we all truly yearn for. So, what is worth doing even if I fail? A good one to remember. Number 2, most people would rather be right than free. Now, I think we can all understand what this lesson is getting at. Now, think about argument conflicts, right? Do you know when someone in their life has a behavior and you can observe the flaw in their behavior, and you can go, hey, I would like to point this out to you. It probably doesn't really come across that way, but you can see in someone else's behavior that something would benefit them, and they defend their self-sabotage to the core, to the ground. Because most people would rather be right. They would rather hold on to the illusion in their life than be free, because the human mind, the brain, it creates an identity, and this is the ego, and we defend that because that's the role of the reticular activating system. So I'll quickly explain what the reticular activating system is. It's basically a filter that we see the world through. Now, we have over 170 cognitive biases. So every single day we wake up and we're going on autopilot basically, because 95% of our actions every single day are subconscious. We're not even thinking about it. It goes through 170 biases, and the reticular activating system operates like a defense attorney. It's trying to defend all of our subconscious beliefs. So when people start to attack us, people start to project onto us, or we're just going about our day, our brain's role is to defend the beliefs because it wants to have congruence, which means an identical understanding between what we believe about ourselves and the world inside and what the world is showing us. We need congruence, because without that, this is where dissonance comes in, and there's that this tension that we feel, and that's where cognitive dissonance is, because we change what we do because it doesn't match with an inner belief, or the other way around. We change our belief because it doesn't match the evidence. So for example, we can prove to ourselves that we can do the thing, and it creates conflict between the evidence we have in our life and the belief we have. And what happens is we often self-sabotage because what we believe about ourselves deep down is not being reflected in reality. So that's why all the subconscious work is super powerful. But when we reflect it back to the lesson about most people would be right than free, because when you let go of these limiting beliefs and you let go of the certainty that what you think straight away is the right answer, your automatic judgments are right, you can be free. Because freedom is the detachment from the certainty and your ego. That's the spiritual element, because that's the ego gripping onto what you think is best for you. But the reality is, a lot of the time, it's from a place of fear. A lot of our subconscious beliefs are from a place of fear to protect us. They're not actually to optimize our life to become the best version of ourselves. So it's important to remember that. And I've constantly reminded myself that my automatic judgments are not always accurate. Feelings are not designed to be accurate all the time. They create this illusion because it creates this. Because all our feelings and automatic judgments and emotions, they're all just assumptions and guesses from the brain. They're not optimized for truth. And from an evolutionary psychology perspective, they are for our survival. And when you look back, it's not about fulfillment. It's not, hey, make Egan as happy as he can be. Make him see truth in this world so he can create the life he truly wants from a place of love. It doesn't do that. It says, hey, what's going on in the outside world? And why is this happening? And it has to make a meaning. The thing about the brain is, compared to all other species, is we have the ability to make meaning. But the reality is most of those meanings come from a place of fear, because our operating system is all about survival. So this quote from Nietzsche says, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. And it sums it up perfectly. We don't want our illusions destroyed, because without the illusion, we don't know who we are. Even if we see ourselves truthfully, we see the reality of our life. It can be quite confronting if we've been living in a fantasy of what our life is. Or on the other side of it, we might be associating with the nightmare, the victim story of our life. And we might not be able to see the blessings or the gifts in our pain, because that is the reality. Every time we are challenged and we go through suffering, there is hidden gifts. And we don't like to see that because our brain wants to see a one-sided perception. It wants to have a concrete understanding that this was bad, this is good. When you're in your amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain, it usually fixates on one extreme. This is good, this is bad. And when I say this is bad, it's from the fear. We run away from predator or towards prey. This is good. So when there are things in our past, we usually have a distorted judgment. It's usually one-sided perception. It's usually, when this person did this to me, that was bad, or this is good. We become very black and white. That's how we understand the world. And that's how our beliefs are formed upon, these distorted perceptions of reality. So when we have our automatic judgments about things in the world, they're usually a distortion. And most people would rather be right than free, because we defend the distorted thing because we think it's who we are. So it's important to remember that your brain is not always optimized, and it isn't optimized for truth. And I think there's a big conversation to be had about how do I balance knowing that, my brain's not optimized for truth, but if I just let the world tell me who I am, I'm never going to figure out who I am. And I think that's important to understand, that this shouldn't mean you let other people tell you what is right and wrong. It's all inside. All of the answers are inside. A lot of us suppress our intuition because we would rather be right than free. So it's creating a space to be able to find our intuition find the balance of this good and this bad. And I think that is what creates the peace. So don't look for other people all the time to give you that answer. Yes, some people might be able to play that role, but they're usually coming from their own bias as well. And I think we need to develop that relationship with ourselves. And for me this year, I've been able to create a lot more space for that as well. You know, I go to people for advice, but a lot of the time they're also projecting their own bias. And it's unconscious. People want to do what's good for you, but they want to do what's good for you given what they think is good. You know what I mean? It's all through that bias. So it's important to remember. Number 3, your ability to explore ideas without needing to agree with them will determine your intelligence. Now, one of my favorite quotes from Aristotle, I've been using this in nearly every single podcast. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And that's the biggest issue we do face in our world right now, is this addiction to our identities. Like it's similar to before, most people would rather be right. And this is the thing, we would rather be attached to our beliefs and our ideas because it's who we think we are. And I think your ability to explore new ideas without this need to be right all the time and just be curious, be like, okay, why do people think that way? Why do I even think that way? Will determine your intelligence, because the most intelligent people realize they have no fucking idea. They're willing to ask questions, because what happens is everyone's afraid of asking the dumb question. Now, I'm sure if you're listening right now, you can understand what that's like. You ask a question and you want to be, everyone wants to ask the smart question. Everyone wants to ask a question like they're coming from a place of understanding. No one wants to ask a dumb question. But the reality is there is no such thing as a dumb question or a smart question. Because your intelligence is your ability to learn. So what I think intelligence really is, and Hormozy talks about this all the time, your intelligence is your rate of learning. And when I say learning, it means the same conditions in your life and a new behavior. So when you go through experiences and you call things a mistake, if you're in the exact same situation, can you change your behavior? If you can, you have learned. Your ability to do that on a scale across all areas of your life will determine your intelligence. If you have an inability to explore new ideas and beliefs without needing to defend every single thing like a badge of honor, you will not learn, you will not change your behavior, and you're not very intelligent. That's how I see it. And I witnessed that in my life and across a lot of people's lives. The people who know they don't really know that much are the smartest people I know, because they're continually asking questions, dumb or smart questions, whatever you want to call it, because they know that they've always got blind spots. I've always got blind spots. And it's important to, keep asking, keep learning, keep being curious. And I find that I think a lot of people struggle to do that because there's this other voice that's telling them that like they're letting people walk over them. If they're asking people questions, you're outsourcing your worth to the crowd. It's not like that at all. Your value doesn't come from your belief system, your identification with a political party, your views on abortion or vaccines. That doesn't make you a worthy person. That is how you understand the world. But everyone has inherent worth. And when you live in alignment with what your true values are, your self-worth will go up. It's not about your beliefs. So when you ask questions and you be curious, that isn't going to sacrifice some of your self-worth. Because I think what happens is we start to mistakenly believe that if we start asking questions, we're sort of losing confidence in our own belief system, because it's like, well, if I truly had confidence in my belief, I wouldn't be asking the questions in the first place. It's like, no. Realize and recognize that we don't really know the true extent of why we believe things in the first place. Because a lot of our beliefs come from a time in place that was decades ago. And we've just had thousands of repetitions of that belief being confirmed and defended in our belief system through our reticular activating system. And we don't actually really know if we believe in that thing. So your ability to explore these ideas without needing to agree with them will determine your intelligence, because you will have access to so much more knowledge and information because you're actually willing to let go of your ego and your pride of, I know what's right and what's best for everyone. So yeah, be willing to let go. It will make you smarter. If you can apply that across a couple of decades, you'll be the smartest person in the room. Guarantee it. Number 4. The illusion of immortality keeps us stuck regressing to the mean. I want to present to you this immediacy problem. Now, I got inspired by this thought experiment from Alex O'Connor, but I've written it out myself. If someone went to the doctor and told them they have 1 week left to live, it immediately shortens their perception on the value of their time. The veil of immortality would be lifted from their eyes, and everything relative to death would appear insignificant. Telling someone how you truly feel, that's not hard compared to death next week. Quitting a job you've always hated, that's not hard compared to death next week. With death as the reference point, life's activities suddenly appear simple, mundane, and irrelevant. There's a clarity that death brings. Do I truly love this thing? No. So why would I spend time doing it? Am I really fulfilled with my life? No. So why am I not doing anything about it? Our filter of life is a brain that prioritizes to just simply survive. So we attempt to suppress any part of our psyche that wants to change, evolve, and make the external environment unpredictable. But when death is near certain, it strips away that filter that silently runs in the background, controlling every aspect of our lives. If you regress the 1 week left to live news slowly out, at what point does it dissolve from the front of our mind and become less important? Well, I can't tell you when it comes out of the front of our mind, but it doesn't become more unimportant. It's just that we live an illusion that we are immortal. Now, there's a famous quote that says, begin with the end in mind. I think it might be Seneca. And that allows you to use death as the framework to judge your life's choices. Imagine walking into the doctor and they say, unfortunately, after running a series of tests, it appears you only have around 35 years left to live. Now, what's the difference between that set of news and the 1 week left to live news? The illusion of immortality. Having your death as the reference point for meaningful action is one of the most powerful tools to start living life in a meaningful way without the illusion of immortality controlling your life. Bang. And I could not agree more with it, because the reality is our brain is optimized for survival. It's just about getting through to the next day. It's just doing what we think is going to allow us to survive. And there's a tension between that and what's actually going to bring us genuine fulfillment. If you don't have death as a reference point or an understanding of your mortality, you will continue to take the safe option because that is what is wired into you. It's like everything is like pushing you towards the safe option, and you've got to have these reminders of like, life is short, I will die one day, so I need to push against that, or else the tension and the gravity. It's almost like there's an inert gravity of the safe option, slowly pushing us down. But we need to jump and press against life, the life force of the safe option, to take the risk, to take the conversation out a little bit at least, to start asking questions at least. It doesn't mean you have to flip your life around in one day, but you have to start thinking, I will die one day. What will I never regret doing? Or maybe think about your deathbed. What will I regret not taking action on? Because you look at the top 5. This is a famous study where they look at the top 5 regrets of the dying, and then they all echo the same sentiment, which is, I wish I hadn't lived a life that others expected of me. I wish I'd told more people how I feel. I wish I did more of what I wanted. I wish I'd allow myself to be happier. They're all saying the same shit. Stop following what people tell you to do. Listen to your heart and take action on it. It's that simple. If you don't realize that you will die one day, you will just simply survive. So it's pretty simple. And I think that you got to really balance that with the existential side, right? Because it can be quite fearful to think like, oh, fuck, I'm going to die. You know, I went through a massive existential crisis for a while where I was like overthinking my death. But that's fear. And the reason fear controls us is because we don't have a true connection to our purpose in life, what we're here to do, and the things that we're here to create. And that's love. And I think when we have love as clear as possible, we understand that, we take action on that, we become inspired to be of service. And I think that's our purpose in life. It's to be of service with our unique imprint on the world. So I think it can be a difficult one to juggle, but I think, yeah, that's where you need to start the conversation at least, because or else you're going to let the illusion of immortality control your life, and you're not going to be around forever. Your soul might, but it's going to forget your time here on earth. So yeah, it's been important for me. Number 5, wisdom is the ability to apply what you know at the right time. Now, I've had a lot of conversation with a lot of people, so I've learned a lot of different things, and I've read a lot of books, done a psych degree. Everyone does a lot of learning, whatever way possible, right? I love reading books. I just love listening to podcasts. I'm all about consuming more information, more knowledge. Now, people say, knowledge or information without embodiment, it's useless. And I agree. If you're not taking action on what you're learning, it can become quite redundant, right? What's the purpose of acquiring more information if you're not going to apply it? To be fair, I'm a bit unique in the sense that my job that I'm creating is to learn as much as possible, but that's not for the purpose of me. So I can get a bit confused because I'm learning all these things and I'm like, am I just intellectually masturbating? But I'm like, okay, no, everyone needs to learn different things and I'm providing this library. But I've learned a lot of things about life through other people, right? It's easy to confuse that with actual life experience. And sometimes I've got ahead of myself thinking, oh, I'm further ahead than I realized because I've heard someone talk about it. It's not true. You need the experience to understand it. And here's why. And people are probably thinking, okay, but why? Obviously, it can be quite difficult to explain. But I think knowledge creates a ceiling within our capacity, but without effective choices, it has no effect. So knowledge is this accumulation of information. It's like everything that we can be aware of in this world. Wisdom is the ability to apply what you know, so all of that knowledge at the right time. If you don't have the experience, you will not know when to apply that certain knowledge. You just won't. Knowledge is the blanket of information. Wisdom is the efficiency of embodiment. Experience teaches you when to use what knowledge. So we are obsessed with learning more, but true learning comes from experience. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying to learn more. I think we should definitely be always constantly curious, asking questions, consuming information. But make sure you pair that up with meaningful action as well. I would rather you learn less and take more action, 100%. Action and experience will teach you 1,000 times more than information. But I will play devil's advocate. If you are scared, it's okay to do the intellectual understanding first. It can be quite comforting to get sort of an anticipation of what's going to happen, whether that's a new training regime or it's in relationship dynamics, and you want to read a book on, how to communicate because you're really scared. Instead of just saying what you feel, like, okay, maybe you do want to do a bit of research about how to communicate. That's totally fine. I think too many people are saying, you shouldn't learn, just do the thing, live life. And I'm like, okay, I get that, but there's a lot of people who are scared, and we're all scared in some way. So do what's best for you. If you need to learn first a little bit to give you a bit of comfort, do it, and then take the action. Don't pretend that you have lived life through a book. As long as you are aware of that at the same time, that's fine. As long as it gets done. It's so important to have lots of information, but you've got to pair it with action. It's the only way to transform your life. You can't transform your life by just thinking that it's going to happen. Yes, there is an element to thoughts can create your reality, but that's because it usually leads to action. I don't know many people that have just sat in a room for 1,000 days straight and their dreams have come true. They've paired it with intentional action. Number 6, loneliness is psychological, not physical. It's an interesting one because I think we are primed for connection, to be around other people. But I think we've confused the presence of other people with connection. I think it's more psychological. I think it's more spiritual. I think what truly connects us is a deep connection of our truth, or our ability to speak what's on our mind and be ourselves. But I think we're more focused on being physically connected than being connected with the right people. And I think when we go through massive evolution in our lives and we change who we want to spend time with, we start to realize maybe the people in our lives aren't really the best people for us. And that can be quite lonely. I think a lot of people experience this phenomenon known as the lonely chapter, where they detach from a group of friends that no longer serve the version of themselves that they're becoming, because not only are they sort of holding them back, but their perception is that they're a different version. So they're projecting that version onto them, and it doesn't allow the room for growth. Interesting conversation. There's so many different ways we can attack it. There's a few quotes I'd like to read. One is from Carl Jung, who says, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." Loneliness, and that's the quote, but loneliness is the absence of authenticity. And when you have no people to express authenticity through, it does feel lonely. It's that simple. You need aligned people in your life. I've learnt that massively this year. I've gone through periods in my life where I've had people around me who were good people, but they didn't understand what I was doing in terms of taking an entrepreneurship route, taking a non-safe path. And I couldn't connect with them the same way because they weren't doing that thing. And it's similar to the information. Yes, they might be aware from an information point of view, but they don't understand what it's like when you let go of the safe path and take the risk. Now, when I've surrounded myself with people, mostly through the podcast, who sort of understand it, I feel more connected because it's just the reality. The reality is they get it, they've done it, and there's an energy and an understanding that the other people can't connect with, and that is what it is. It's just the reality. So it begs the question though, how do I know I'm aligned with these people? So I'll give you a couple of questions to take away with and start reflecting on. Why am I friends with this person? Do we talk more about the past or present? Do we talk more about ourselves or other people? If both our memories were wiped tomorrow, would I be naturally drawn to this person? The last one is massive. Just think, if all your memories were wiped and you just suddenly saw them in public, would you be drawn to have a conversation with them? Would they actually be interesting to you? I think a lot of us are in friendships out of guilt. Oh, I've been friends with them for so long, and it's also quite comforting because you might have to let go of your own identity. So there is a bit of selfishness in friendships as well, where like we're friends with people because it gives us the comfort of I can always go back to my former self if they're around. You know what I mean? This is not to say that you should just abandon friends because they don't have the same life as you, because everyone can play a different role in your life. Don't get me wrong. But I do know a lot of people who were hanging out with people whose worldview was so different, there was no congruency. And I think when your worldviews are so fundamentally different, it's going to limit you. And at the end of the day, like I said, you have one life and you've got to prioritize what's meaningful for you. So yeah, there is enough people out there doing things similar to you that will connect with you. So sometimes you have to sacrifice that, but you shouldn't do it just because someone's telling you to do it. You've got to lean into what feels right and really ask yourself the questions. Let the answers come to you. Don't try and find the answers outside through someone like me. I can give you some questions that you can ask yourself, but you've got to determine it for yourself. Don't let anyone else tell you what you've got to do. Next one. Actually, just before we wrap that up, I wanted to, because you might not understand where to go with that question. So when I said, do we talk more about ourselves or other people? I think when you talk more about yourselves and what you're doing and what you're trying to create, if you're someone who wants to be a doer in life and take creative action, that's a good sign. If you're just constantly judging other people and, tearing other people down, gossiping, and maybe that isn't really what you want to do, then yeah, maybe it's not an aligned friendship. So yeah. And with the why am I friends with this person, make a list. How do they benefit your life? Start writing down the benefits. And if you can't really think that far and it doesn't really give you the benefits to what your values are, because if you're not clear on what you value in life, then it's going to be really hard to know if your friendships are benefiting your values. Because when you ask yourself that question, why am I friends with this person? If you don't know what your values are, how do they know if you're serving you? And vice versa, how do you know if you're giving them what you want, they want as well? So it goes both ways. Number 7. So let me grab a quick drink of the coffee. Number 7. All in is easier than half in. One of my favorite all-time quotes, I use it all the time, from Hormozy. He says, commitment is the elimination of alternatives. It's basically when you decide the thing I'm aspiring towards, this vision I have of my life, that's the thing. It's the thing I'm going to do. And everything else is in service of that. When you have parachutes in your life, when you constantly have these backups, you'll deploy it early. You'll deploy it very early. Not only will you have people saying, hey, you're off the ground, like come back to safety. You'll get scared yourself because you're in the air, you're flying. You're chasing something that isn't in this reality, it's in the future. You'll deploy that parachute way too early. When you remove other options, your dream life becomes the reference point. It becomes the thing. There's no other option. Yes, that means it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to actually probably be harder, but you'll stop juggling through all these other options. You'll stop justifying, should I go back? Should I keep going forward? And you'll save so much time. What kills dreams is hesitation. That is what kills the dream life you're creating. Because energy creates the life you want. When you take intentional action towards what you want to build, your dream life will start to manifest. So when you're all in, even if you're not putting 100% of your time in and you've got to work other jobs, maybe you're working full-time in a job you don't like, as long as you know that your dream vision is this, everything can start to become in service of that. The problem becomes when we start having no certainty with where we want to go, and we're sort of just guessing, and we're letting life's fluctuations determine our confidence in our vision. You have to be unwavered, and that comes from being like, nah, this is the thing. You don't need the proof for it as well. I think a lot of us are like, I need the signal of proof to prove that I'm worthy of doing the thing. It's like, no, you become the person capable of achieving those dreams when you do it without the success. It builds the person capable. Everything you want to be successful is a series of character traits, and you build them in the training grounds, not at the top of the mountain. You build them on the way up to the top, and then you look back and go, I'm the person who climbed this mountain. Now I have all of these characteristics, all of these strengths. You couldn't have done it without them, but you needed the climb to create them. And I think that is just so true. And when you go all in, you start to build those strengths, the commitment, the dedication, the certainty, the confidence, because you'll draw in challenges. Naturally, you'll draw in the doubt of, oh my God, is this going to be the thing? And when you fortify your mind to, no, this is the thing. This is the thing I'm doing. It can be quite confronting. It'll bring you the challenges you need to become the person you want to become, to achieve the success you've always dreamed of. Don't let emotions dictate your action, and that's what we do too much. I think this is especially prevalent for men because we've become overly identified with our feelings, and a lot of blokes I know have just given up. And trust me, I'm the one, I've done this. I've half-assed my dreams with the podcast. And the last 3 months, especially the last 2 months, where I've just gone, I know what I'm doing it. I'm not letting my mood dictate me. For example, this morning when I sat down to do this podcast, I wasn't in the best mood. I did it, and now I'm in a good mood. Action creates inspiration. And inspiration, it feels good. Everyone knows what it's like to feel inspired and just feel like life is calling them, and it's just, you're in flow. So, yeah, all in is easier than half in. Even if you do not apply 100% of your time to a particular goal, the certainty that this goal is your true meaning in life will mean every other part of your life becomes instrumental, which means used for and filtered through this reference point. Because when you're juggling, when you're hesitating, that's where dreams get killed. They get killed in the art of rationalization and procrastination. Do it. It will happen. Even if you have to fucking work hard and make it happen through dedication and time and sacrifice and all this other stuff we all know about. The certainty that this is going to be your life will create so much intentionality towards your actions. It will pull back the obstacles. You will just find success in ways you can't even imagine. I guarantee it. I've seen it in my life so far. I've seen it in every other person's life. Number 8. This is an important one when we talk about people projecting what they think is best for us versus what we want. Number 8. If they don't have what you want, don't listen to them. Now that might seem quite brutal at the start, but the reality is I'd rather it be brutal than be this people-pleasing, oh, I've got to listen to everyone's perspective and I've got to be kind. Yeah, there's a time to be humble and realize you don't have the answers in life. 100%. Let's not kid ourselves. But the majority of people outsource their life to other people. I'd rather you be on the harder side of being brutally honest and brutally taking ownership of your life than listening to everyone's perspective and letting them control you, because a lot of us have this people-pleasing mask into our life, not even a mask, but more like it's a people-pleasing tendencies, and we listen to too many people. And I think it's this beautiful balance of like, when you listen, you learn a lot from people. But if you listen to people about what they think is best for your life, you'll live a life probably that isn't for you. I guarantee it. You need to know what perspectives you will take on board. You've got to find this trust of, who has my best interest at heart, or who is benefiting from me choosing a life like that. So for example, like if someone says this is what you should do for your life, ask the question, how do they benefit if I do this thing? And a lot of the time it might serve them in a way, some psychological self-interested way, whether it's like, gives me the comfort of not having to chase my dreams because they're not chasing theirs. Or they might want you to focus more on living in alignment with their values, which is creating a business first instead of, looking after a family. Let's say you're a woman and you really want to be a mother, and everyone's telling you, No, but you got to create a business. But it's like, how would that benefit them? Well, that everyone's driven or sees the world through self-interest. There's not many people who are very objective. I'd say really nearly anyone. Maybe the Buddha, Dalai Lama, maybe. But they don't have what you don't. If they don't have what you want, don't listen to them. Now, you've got to balance this. I agree with perspectives from other people. So that's where you need to know who you can trust. And people have to prove that they're worthy of your trust. So when I say if they don't have what you want, don't listen to them. That doesn't mean you don't listen to anyone. It just means that the people who you listen to need to earn your trust. And that is the difference between outsourcing your life to the crowd and knowing whose perspectives you can value and trust because they have your best interests at heart. That matters. And like I said, I'd rather you lean on the safe side of I'm going to take ownership for my life than outsourcing your worth and your direction of your life to the crowd, because I think more people do that than the other way around. Number 9, consistency without improvement is lip service. It will take time to build something great in your life. To really have this vision of your life come into reality. It can take time. But one of the hidden assumptions in the quote of like consistency, because everyone preaches that consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. No shit, it's the key. But you need to seek improvement along that journey, because one of the assumptions in the quote of consistency is key is that you're consistently improving as well. Because consistency without improvement is just lip service. It's just, oh yeah, I'm doing the thing. If you're not focused on what actually makes up the life you're trying to create, whether it's a business or a family life or whatever it is, if you don't look at, okay, what are the things that make it up? Because when you have this vision of your life, or you have a vision of your business, or whatever it is, it's usually made up of things, call them elements, different elements of it. So I'll just reference the podcast because everyone can understand it sort of simply. But like, there's so many things that go into it, right? Like it's guest selection, it's the clips I make, it's the marketing of how I word things. There's so many little like things, and those are little elements. So when people say consistency is key, they're assuming that I'm going to get better at better guests, better clips. But I think what I've seen is a lot of people who are trying to build something in their life, whatever it is, they don't actually focus on improving. They just focus on getting it done. And sometimes, and this is where it's going to seem paradoxical, sometimes you just got to get it done, depending on what state of mind you're in, because you will improve naturally. There is natural improvements. But if you're not keeping front of mind, what do I need to do to be great? Because success leaves clues. Where am I at? Honestly, seriously, when I look at the behaviors of a successful person, how much am I in alignment with them? Now, I think we kid ourselves with the fluff of like, consistency is key. And it's like this self-soothing sentiment. Nah, bullshit. Of course it's fucking key. But what do I need to do to be great? What are the behaviors I need to do to be great? Can I even write them down? Have I even taken a moment to write down what I need to do? Do I have a process, a system to actually understand it? This is what professionals do. This is what the best do. So why am I not doing it? Because I don't really want it that badly. I just want the idea's nice. It's lip service to your ego. Oh yeah, I'll get there. Do you know why? It's the art of rationalization. It's still the ego can show up. Because when you do something meaningful and you take a big risk and you're building towards something, it can be scary for the ego because it doesn't feel as secure and safe. So your ego will go through this art of rationalization and it will create resistance. You'll show up, you'll do the thing, but you'll do it sort of half-assed and you'll just get it done, but you won't really think too much about it. You won't really have high standards. You won't improve. Deep down, there's a part of you that wants to sabotage your success because it has a fear of showing yourself. So you have to be brutally honest. What does it take to be great? To build something really meaningful in my life? And what does it look like? What does it feel like? And how can I access it? So I think this is a nuanced one, and it'd be good to work with a coach for this, but it's important to remember being consistent doesn't guarantee success. Being consistently better will guarantee your success. It's the simple philosophy of the Japanese, the Kaizen, incremental improvement. So yeah, take action, learn from it, apply it, keep learning. It's a simple feedback loop. Number 10, life is energy, so audit it. The reality is we do realize that everything in our life is vibrations, chemical reactions, vibrations. And when you realize that, you can realize that things are either giving me energy or taking energy away from me. So you just got to start to audit it. What am I eating? How am I exercising? The people I'm around, does this give me energy or take energy away from myself? Getting into the sun, feeling good in personal relationships, all of these things, right? We can start to really audit it, like what's inspiring me and lifting my vibration, what's draining me. It can be that simple. Start writing it down. What inspires me? What drains me? Who am I comparing myself to? Because most people focus on energy in the physical form, like training, it gives you energy and makes you fitter, and this food. But like psychologically, it's the biggest drain of energy. When we live in our mind, in the sense of we're living from a place of fear and lack, that is so draining. It lowers our vibration so much. So who am I comparing myself to? That's a big one. A lot of us compare. We're constantly thinking about other people. We're constantly thinking about what we don't have. And the reality is that's just taking energy away from us as the creator of our life. And it robs energy. It robs it. So it's important to start thinking about what is giving me energy. How can I do more of that? What is draining my energy? Can I sacrifice? Can I get rid of it in my life? Or if I have to keep doing this thing for some reason, how can I change things within that so that it doesn't take as much energy off me? So for example, if you're in a toxic workplace and let's say you have to keep working for a little bit of time, whatever it is, am I listening to too many people? Do I not know how to walk away from a room? So there's always an opportunity to be in control of your life. So don't forget that when you're doing this audit. Take responsibility for what you can do. The only struggle with the solo episode is I don't have the guests to talk. And whenever I look back and I'm editing the clips, I'm editing the podcast, and it goes from me talking to the guests, and sometimes I can see myself, I'm just drinking the coffee. It's quite funny. I don't have the opportunity today, but bear with me. Number 11, my favorite number. And also, do you think this is a coincidence? Like we talk about synchronicities. Number 11, my favorite lucky number, is my favorite lesson. And it's also my favorite lesson from the guest. And it's from Mitchell Vickridge, and he's taught me about the Demartini method. So I won't have it ready in the show notes today because it's coming out early this episode. But from January, I'll be partnering up with Mitchell Vickridge and his business Nirvana Health, and I'll be putting people towards one of the most valuable products and services in the world, the Demartini method. But the lesson is inspired from the conversations we've had. I've done a lot of work with him now, and it's all about perception. So the lesson is change starts with perception. So mastering your perceptions is the key to controlling your life. When I say controlling, it's probably better to put empowering, because controlling seems like it's quite rigid, but it's all about the agency you feel in your life. Like, I have this life I want, whether it's good or bad. It's like, I'm responsible for this. Like, what you're creating is you. And I think even if you don't have a life you want, if you feel in control of it, at least you can change it. If you feel a victim to life, a victim to circumstance, yeah, that's quite painful, but you go through the Demartini process, it shows the other side of the story, and it gives you the empowerment to actually make change. See some of the gifts, see some of the things you've learnt from the pain, and then you get to be the one to make the change. So Mitchell Vickridge talks about perceptions, but I wanted to talk about, if I ask you now, if you're listening now and you think, what makes my life good? Or what makes a successful life? Now, you might say it's experiences, it's an accumulation of good experiences, maybe it's people around you, family, whatever it is. I'm sure you could probably accept that to get the life we truly want, it takes actions. It does take actions of any amount. So it takes behaviors in your life, because you have to either earn money for a family, go out and build a relationship. And if you think, okay, why do we take certain actions? It's because we've made a decision to take that action. Sometimes it's between one or two things. Do I take this action or do I not? But sometimes there's many choices we have. But regardless, you'll accept that upstream from an action is a decision. We've made a decision to take that action. Whether we think about it consciously or not, there is a decision that we have to make. Now, if you keep regressing that back from an action to a decision, the next thing that most people don't think about is, okay, when we're actually making a calculation, consciously or not, towards this decision, what is controlling that? It's the perception. And perception is often automatic. The reality is our mind, our survival brain especially, we are always making decisions that we perceive will give us a greater advantage over disadvantage. And we often don't know the advantages and disadvantages. We're usually unconscious to one side of it. So even when we replicate the familiar hell in our life, it's for the safety and the predictability, and it's because it's what we think we're sometimes, we might have a subconscious belief that is, I'm not worthy. So it confirms that subconscious belief. There's always an understanding and a linkage between what we perceive in our mind and what we create in our reality. And when you start to understand where your perceptions come from and you start to alter your perceptions, you start to see the other side of the story from where these perceptions were created from, you can start to empower your life because you become more conscious. Conscious simply means, and this isn't a lesson down, it means more information. You become more aware of already what's inside, and it means you stop being controlled by the subconscious because you start to decide and live more in alignment because you understand why you do certain things. So we sabotage ourselves a lot, but we get benefits out of sabotaging ourselves. We always do. Everything is calculated by the mind to survive, to keep us safe. Even if it's at the expense of our emotions and our enjoyment, it doesn't give a fuck. Your brain does not care if you suffer as long as it survives. When you realize that, you realize, okay, maybe I do need to explore my perceptions a bit because they are controlling my life. Now, perceptions often come from from beliefs, which are stored in the subconscious. And most of our beliefs happen when we're in childhood, not even really thinking. We just, from 0 to 7, we don't think. We don't have a logical mind. But we're given love, we express ourselves. And how do people react to that? How do our caregivers treat us? What model of love do we have? Now that becomes our unconscious template for love. And we'll keep recreating that. It's just how it works. And when we start to go back and unpack that, we can start to take more ownership of our lives. And that goes to different things, like different negative experiences, whether it's heartbreak, business failure, resentment, anger, all these difficult emotions, right? We can actually start to change our perception to them because it's usually a one-sided experience. Usually, actually, all the time, life gives you exactly what you need. And often the reality is we're not listening to life. We're being the victim to life. And that might seem quite brutal, and I don't mean to be not compassionate because you might be thinking of your most painful moments and hear me saying like, oh, life gives you what you need. And it's like, well, I just got hit by my partner. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's something that we don't see in situations because our mind only fixates on one thing. It doesn't mean that it's good. This is the Demartini. It's why a lot of people have a lot of problems with the Demartini method because they think that when you say there's good in the bad or there's an opportunity to find the other side of the story, that it's invalidating the pain. It's actually not. It's seeing the other side. Think of like 180 degrees. Think of a flat line, and then think of a 90-degree angle, and that's one side. That's, let's say, bad. And just think of a flat line and a line going straight up, and you got the 90-degree angle, and all that is shaded in red. It's bad. We know that what that is. That's conscious. We know the bad thing. Someone getting hit, a business going to failure, a breakup, all these things. We see the bad. We get it. The Demartini method is like you are super conscious of the bad. No one's trying to deprive you of that. But because our mind, like I said earlier in the conversation, runs through the amygdala, we are fixated on seeing one side. This is good, this is bad. So we often, the brain creates an illusion that this one experience, this one thing was only bad. Now, not only have I seen through guests who have told me, and I've seen testimonials, and even in my own life, some of the most painful experiences that are just, you think this is bad, this only could be one bad thing. And there's always another side to the story. That doesn't mean the red that we spoke about is not there. That's not invalidating the pain. It's just to show there is green as well. If you don't acknowledge that, you'll keep recreating the red until you see the green. That's just what happens. That is the Demartini method in action. Life will give you what you need. And when I say what you need, it's so you can see the green, and then what happens is you stop needing the red because there's usually a distortion from the event. And it's a weird thing to think about. Why would I need to keep having pain to see the other side? But it's part of our spiritual journey on this life to break free from karmic cycles. And yeah, I think it can be quite confronting, the Demartini method. It is. I find it quite confronting to talk about because it can seem quite invalidating, but it's true. And it's true for not only some of the most horrific things you can imagine, but I've had it done to me many times. And I've had events where I'm like, it can only be one side. This is bad. And I've seen the other side. But if you're resistant to it, that's fine. Maybe it's not the right time because people aren't always ready to do the things. So the Demartini is ready for those who are ready to actually take ownership. And it'll be in my show notes soon, the partnership with Mitchell Vicarage. So keep your eyes peeled. One of the most powerful things, you'll get a 10% discount, but we'll talk about that more later when it's all out. Number 12. To finish up 11, what I mean is when you start to master your perceptions, you start to actually be in control because the perceptions control you. And if you're unconscious to why you perceive something in the first place, you'll get controlled by the past. So when you actually go back, dissolve the emotional baggage, see the other side, it stops trying to recreate itself. So then you can actually start to make choices that are in alignment with what you want in this world. And there's a whole lot more to the Demartini method, like figuring out what you value, what your purpose is, why you're here, and how to do that. So much more to it, but I thought that was a good lesson. It's changed my life. Right, let me get a quick coffee. Sip. Okay, we're 55 minutes in, I think, something like that. 56. Try and speed run these next 13 because I have a few less notes for them, but super powerful ones. Number 12. A good friend tells you what you need to hear. A true friend knows when you need to hear it. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that's the same shit thing, isn't it? So let me say it again. A good friend tells you what you need to hear. A true friend knows when you need to hear it. And the difference is a good friend, and what I mean by that is someone who you have a friendship with that's quite strong. Often objectively, when you're not in, and when it's not you going through the emotions, what someone needs to hear is, and I would say wants to hear, like what, but I don't think that's true. I think a good friend actually knows what someone needs to hear in terms of like, let me explain this. When you're early on in a good friendship, I think we often think that what someone needs to hear is that brutal, honest truth. And we think that's the good friend they're telling them. And I think that's true for most of the time. But I think there's a time where we know the person so intimately, like think about how much intimately you know yourself. You know when you need you know exactly what message you need. You know sometimes you're just feeling sorry for yourself and actually pushing you harder wouldn't actually bring any benefits. You might need to hear a hard truth. And when I say a good friend tells you need to hear that, yeah, a good friend would tell you that right then. But it's the wrong time. Maybe you need one more day. A true friend who knows you intimately will know exactly what to pull out of you to do the best thing for you. And I think that it's like a silver. Okay, that's a poor joke, but it's like a lower class membership. It's like a good friend is like the silver tier membership friend, and like the true friend is like on the ultimate package friend subscription. They just know what you need to hear to get the most out of you. Because your true friend knows what you want in life, and it knows the path probably to get there, in the sense of like they know that going harder at you right now with the hard truth probably isn't going to serve you. Tomorrow it might. A good friend will probably just tell you the hard truth that you need to hear. A true friend knows, is it today or is it tomorrow or is it next week? I will tell them eventually, but I know exactly what to say and when to say it because I know them inside and out. I think it's important because I've had a lot of people tell me certain things, with the podcast, and I've known like it's not the right time. Like no matter what they say, I'm like, yeah, that's a hard truth. And I do need to hear that, but I know that it's being delivered at the wrong time and it's not going to get the response I need. And then I know that the people who know me the best know when to pull out the right card for me, because we're not always ready to hear some things in our life. And I think people who know us intimately know what string to pull. It's a good one to think about because you've got to think about with your friendships as well. You got to know when to, say the right thing, because not only does it strengthen relationships, but it makes you a fucking super valuable person, because people will come to you. People will come to you for your honest feedback because they know what to say. Because not only the hard truth you'll eventually hit them with, but they'll know that what you say has always led to positive outcomes. Even if it takes time to prove it, they'll know that when I go to this person, I get what I need. And sometimes that is the self-soothing, and sometimes that is the hard feedback. They trust that you know how to read them and what's best for them in that given moment. And that's true friendship. Number 13, comparison is the thief of joy and also the roadmap to success. So think back to the Demartini method, right? We've got the straight line, we've got the line going up in the middle, and we've got two sides. Comparison is the thief of joy. So when everyone says comparison's bad, we're focused on the red, the bad. There's also green, because comparison wouldn't exist if it didn't serve a role. It just wouldn't. Nothing exists in this world if it doesn't serve some role. Because from an evolutionary perspective, why would it exist? Everything has survived for a reason. So if comparison was bad, why would it fucking exist in our psychology, in our brain? It just wouldn't happen, because it would be evolutionary put out. It would be shunned away. It would be, I'm struggling to articulate it as best as possible, but it just would go. It wouldn't be in the system, because what is needed survives. So it's also the roadmap to success, because think about back in the day, how are the other guys hunting? How are the women gathering and looking after that? How are they communicating? Like, we need comparison to understand what is good and what creates success. It becomes the roadmap to success. What are they exhibiting? Yes, it's very easy to carbon copy and paste someone's life into ours, and that won't bring you fulfillment, but it will bring you results. And I think it's important to know the difference between the two and realize, okay, comparison can be quite negative and it can weigh me down. But if I can just look at it from an objective point of view and go, hey, what behaviors are they exhibiting that create success, and how can I do more of that? It only drains us when we attach to the comparison, in the sense of, like, if I look at a successful podcaster, let's say the biggest one in the world, probably Diary of a CEO. I look at their trailers, their guests, their numbers. I could easily drain myself and go, I'll never get that good. But I don't focus on that. I just go, what are the standards that they have, and how can I improve my standards to be better? I started doing that, and holy shit, I tell you what, things are improving positively a lot from that. Better thumbnails, better titles, better guest selection, better marketing. Everything improves. And I'm not down on myself because I'm not that big. They've been doing it way longer. There's always a reason. And it's also a disservice to the people who've spent decades or years doing things, and you're just like coming in after a couple, whatever, how long you've been doing something, and going, yeah, I deserve that. That's the pride element. There's always a reason someone has success. And maybe, it's a long conversation about that, but success is not a coincidence. Just remember that. So look to the behaviors. How can I do more of that? Don't copy their soul, but copy their actions, because their actions are going to lead to success. It's tried and tested. It's very unlikely you're doing something unique in the world, in the sense of you're probably not the first person to start a business. Obviously, it's a joke, but you're not the first person to have a successful podcast, have a successful relationship. And I think when you're looking at people's lives and the success, you do have to ask yourself, is this what I want? And if it is, then okay, what are the behaviors and actions they took to get there, and how can I copy it a little bit? As long as you know the fabric of you is yourself, and you're not copying the soul. Like, if I listened to every podcast that Chris Williamson and Diary of a CEO did, and I started just asking the exact same questions, thinking like them, or just, really like focusing on how would he do it? How would he do it? That's just copying the soul and the essence of them. It's not authentic. But I never do that. The marketing and the bubble wrapping and the actions you take to support the growth, yeah, copy the success, but just keep the main thing, the creative artwork, keep it yours, and that'll save you, and it will make you successful too. Number 14, volume times iteration equals success. So this is sort of going to link in a few lessons before, but it's pretty simple. When you take action, you learn what works, because you get feedback. You get certain outcomes. Okay, how did this perform in the algorithm? How did I feel doing it as well? Use that feedback to iterate your process. Your adaptability is paramount to exponential growth. When you take a lot of action, so for example, I do 3 podcasts a week. I make a lot of clips. I see what works, and I do more of what works, and I do less of what doesn't. Okay, yes, some of the stuff that does well isn't, if I did every post like that, it probably wouldn't really be the best expression of myself. So there's always going to be a trade-off you do make for success in terms of growth, and you balance it with what's, because you can easily get drifted towards just extreme views and posting stuff that isn't yourself. So don't let success in the sense of outcomes control you, but use it as like a compass of, like, not even a compass, but an awareness perspective of, like, okay, that performs well. How could I do more of that? And don't look at it so morally. I think we get so morally obsessed with like, oh, I've got to be I've got to be the good person and be all loving and kind. It's like, Hormozy said this, and Ryan spoke about it in a recent episode I did with him. And he said, you can be a good person or a bad person. If you do the work, you'll get the results. And that's true. And a lot of us are so obsessed with being the good person or feeling guilty for doing certain things, feeling shameful. Trust me, I'm on that journey too. But the reality is, when you understand the Demartini method, you'll realize if you just do what feels right for you, life will automatically humble you or put you back into authenticity. It's just how it works. So you can't fail. Even if you do something that's morally, quote unquote, wrong, you'll get the feedback and it will give you the opportunity to pivot a little bit. But just take action and you iterate. You learn what works. If you, like I said before, if you hesitate on your dreams, you learn nothing from the sidelines. When you're in the training grounds in the battle, you know what maneuvers work. Every guest keeps saying the same thing. Just take action, find a place to introspect and learn from it, and take more action. Intelligence is your rate of learning. And how can you learn if you're sitting on the sidelines criticizing other people? It's that simple. Focus on you. Take on feedback from your own life. So when I say take on feedback, I mean look at your life. What is it demonstrating you is working and what isn't? And take new action. Number 15. The holy grail of success is external achievement and internal fulfillment. A lot of people become successful in this life. A lot of people make a lot of money, have a lot of fame, have a lot of people who put them on this pedestal. Not many of them are happy and truly fulfilled in their life. And I think that is what a lot of us are striving towards. It's this holy grail of, can I find external success? Can I find that financial freedom in my life so I'm not controlled by money? But if I don't do that without fulfillment, it begs the question, what's the point of it? So for me, that's what I'm striving towards. I'm striving towards external success because I want to have the freedom to make an impact in this world. I want to be able to travel wherever I want and bring these conversations to the world. I don't want to be limited by money. So I want to be externally successful. The more people listen to the podcast, I think it's going to make an improvement to this world. So of course I want external success, but I know that I don't want to sacrifice internal fulfillment. So that means focusing on the positive impact and not just letting scarcity drive you in, and really doing it from a place of love. Like, what do I want to show and explain, and who am I, and how can I express that through the show? So I think, yeah, if you can be externally successful and internally content and fulfilled, it's pretty rare. I just think it's a super good one to aim for. I think it's worth sacrificing some external achievement for the internal. Like, if you have to trade off one, trade off the external fulfillment. Sorry, the external success, because you don't need to fucking have $1 billion and have it be famous to be happy. No, not even close to it. If anything, it probably makes you less happy. So focus on figuring out what your best life looks like without the limitations, without the limiting beliefs. And ask yourself, how would I feel in those circumstances? And why would I feel that way? Naval Ravikant says, success is for other people, fulfillment is for you. So true. Being externally successful is not for you. It's for how others perceive you. They might treat you differently, but fulfillment is for you. It's the thing you get to experience in this lifetime. Life is short. You're the only one who gets to experience your existence through your unique life. The fulfillment you feel from the action you take is truly special. Focus on that, and I guarantee the success will probably follow too. Number 16. Consciousness is information. When you become more aware, you become more conscious of information that's already existed. I love this one. I've had a lot of spiritual guests talk about this. And everyone talks about consciousness. What actually is it? And to me, you can say one element of consciousness is information. From the Demartini method perspective, like when you become more conscious of yourself and you see the green, like before let's say we focus, because sometimes we actually focus on the green as well. This is when you go into euphoria and you don't see the drawbacks. It's the other side of it. But most of us are more focused on the negatives. So we'll talk about that. So when you're focused on the red, right? When you see the green, you become more conscious because you become aware of information that's already existed. The same thing, I had a guest come on who was an astrologer talking about how we can use astrology to figure out our star signs, rising signs, and use astrology to understand ourselves. That information's already existed within you. It's through you. It's part of you. You just become more aware of what's already there. So consciousness can be framed as understanding yourself. It's becoming aware of information that's already there. So when you think of it like that, what you can do is you can start to understand that when I'm trying to become more conscious of my life, and people really fixate, it's not out there. It's not out in the ether. It's inside. And if you don't create the space for that, and this will come into number 17, you're probably not going to find it. It's super important to frame consciousness as an internal thing. And I know when you get into consciousness, it also becomes, you become connected to people and you view them as not separate from yourself. But until you clear the pathway for that inside and realize that life is lived through you, you're going to see life very black and white. So it's important to be aware that a lot of what you're looking for in life, the answers, are inside. Consciousness is at the center of that. And you don't have to try as hard as you think. Because consciousness is framed as this daily chore. I have to be conscious and aware, super self-aware. I don't think it's as hard as that. I think when you truly understand yourself and you've done the deep work, because I think there is an element where you've got to do the deep work, understand where your beliefs come from. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but when you've done that, you're more aware of yourself. So when you start to sabotage yourself, you just become aware of it straight away because you know why you're doing that. If you don't know why you're sabotaging your success, it can feel like the weight of the world's against you. Like the shame can come in, the regret, the frustration. But when you are aware of the part of yourself that wants to play small, you can just tell it to fuck off. You can understand where it's coming from, and you can say, hey, thank you. Thanks for looking out for the little guy when I was younger and I wanted that. Or, thanks for trying to keep me small, but I'm good, thank you. When you become more conscious, you become more aware of the information inside of you. You build new information, build new evidence, build a new story. You're the narrator of your life. You just got to remember that you have the pen. And I think consciousness makes you realize that all those earlier chapters, you've written them as well. And what happens is when we usually look back to the chapters of our life, it's like we've highlighted, it's like the amygdala highlights the red. It's like we've highlighted all the negative bits and we forget all the bits in between that are the good, the other side of the story. And we've forgotten to read that bit when we go back to the past. So then what happens is when we're writing our future, we look back to the past as a guide to what we should be writing in the future. And we just see the red. And subconsciously it just shows up in how we express ourselves. We're just trying to recreate it. So you got to see all of it. If you don't see all of it, you'll be unconscious and you'll probably keep replicating that past until you can see everything else. Next one, number 17. Alone time is essential to finding yourself and knowing what people are meant for you. Now, this is a pretty simple one, and a lot of people echo this, but you need to spend time alone. And alone time doesn't have to be this meditation. Like, you can be driving a car and you're not listening to music. You're just in your thoughts. Because I think sometimes we get over aroused when it's just by ourselves, and a lot of people don't feel, their nervous systems are so overstimulated and they don't feel safe with silence. So you can do it driving, or if you find meditation good, do that. Or sitting out in the sun, whatever it is, I think you need time alone. Time with your thoughts. This, to me, what I'm doing right now is time alone. It's essential. Journaling. Whatever it is, you need to create a space to figure out who you are without the infusion of other people's voices. Even if they're silent, we're constantly trying to do what's right for them. Because if you don't know who you are, you're not going to have the right people in your life. And that's what the second part of the lesson was, knowing what people are meant for you. Because when you know at your core who you are and you've stripped back the layers, it's really easy to decipher, is this person really my person? Pretty easy to know when you know yourself, but you need alone time to figure that out. Or you start molding yourself to everything you do and the people you surround yourself with. So yeah, alone time is essential. 18. A belief is not yours until you have stress tested it. Now this can get quite psychological, but I'll read what I've written and it's as simple as that. From 0 to 7, you are a sponge to the external world. Now, you're just consuming information because you need to understand what you need to do to survive. Your brain is thinking, what is happening out there? And I need to understand what's happening so that I can keep doing what works and do less of what doesn't work. So if you're abused, your belief system goes, I'm not worthy of love. I need to find love in that way. So you might find someone who treats you like that because your brain thinks that it's safe. It might not be logical and you might think that's fucking stupid, but it absorbs what's happened to it and keeps recreating it because you've survived. Whatever has happened in your past, you've survived. And as long as your brain knows that what has happened, you have survived, it will recreate the exact same circumstances. Even if logically it makes no sense and it seems quite painful to think about. But your subconscious mind controls 95% of your actions every single day. So your life is now running on a series of beliefs you did not choose. You were a sponge to them. So we become identified with our life as a result of our beliefs. But we have not taken the time to actually test whether we agree with those beliefs. So when we're in a relationship we don't love, we're choosing a job that is not fulfilling and is not inspiring us, or whatever it is, we don't actually spend the time to think, have I actually tested this belief and whether I agree with it or not? Or I actually really want this? No, because your brain is optimized to suppress that part of your your soul, whatever, trying to evolve. And you because I think we have our soul that's trying to evolve, but then we have our brain and our fear center, our amygdala, trying to suppress. So it's just constant tension. If you don't use your neocortex, the more evolved part of your brain, to go, I need to start thinking about my beliefs a bit. I need to start realizing, okay, what patterns am I falling into, and what beliefs might be underwriting that, and have I actually even chosen these beliefs? The reference point of your beliefs should be your own critical thinking. It's a tattoo I have on my heart because it's one of my greatest beliefs in this world. It's called Sapir Ord, which means dare to know, also dare to be wise. And it basically means the courage to use your own reasons. And I believe at the heart of a meaningful life is when you have the courage to use your own reasons. Because when you do, you've chosen it. You've taken the time to figure out what you wanted to create in this life, and you've gone, yep, I believe in it. When you absorb other people's beliefs, there might be a small chance that you agree with it. And there's some beliefs you might agree with. And you might, but most people, I would say, they aren't like that. And just due to how family pattern dynamics work, it's usually what we're deprived of, we value. So what our voids are drive our values. So usually what we love is what we didn't get. So it's quite counterintuitive because I think that's why there's a lot of dissatisfaction with our lives, because what we were deprived of in our childhood, we actually deeply yearn for. And because subconsciously it kept us safe, we keep recreating what we don't actually want. So there is tension. And I think you've got to have the courage to ask yourself those questions. A belief is not yours until you have stress tested it. Actually test it out. Is this my belief? Choose your own reasons for believing in something. Number 19. Vision is the art of seeing something invisible to others. When you're doing something uncommon, you're not following the pattern, you're not even following the expectations of what people think you should be doing. It can be big or small. The common man will not understand. And when I say the common man, I just mean anyone who doesn't get it and they just don't understand why you would do that thing. And we've all experienced that in our own life in some way, shape or form, big or small. We know what it feels like when that person just does not understand what we're doing. Now, vision is the ability to forecast yourself into the future and go, what I'm doing now might not make sense to others and it might be invisible, but I see it and I want it and I'm going to create it. That's what vision is, baby. That's knowing I have to trust that vision is calling something in me that I can't comprehend logically, but I feel on a soul level. If you do that, and that's not easy, that's a journey, but it's important to have people like myself reminding you that that's what everyone's saying. That's what the greats are saying. You have to trust someone at some point with what teachings they have. And I'd rather trust the teachings that are empowering an authentic, meaningful life than the people who are living out of fear, trying to pull you back to make themselves feel better. I'd rather be disappointed. I would rather be disappointed that it didn't work out, even after I had a go, than thinking, what if? Is that not the worst feeling in the world? What if? What if I just asked the girl out that I really, really love, or I really was attracted to, and what if I left the job that I always hated to follow something meaningful to me? What if I left that relationship that I knew wasn't the right one, but I couldn't take the risk. I have this vision of what my life's going to look like in my job, my relationships, my body, my eating, and I don't know how to let go of the certainty, because like I said, the brain is optimized for certainty. It will recreate whatever it needs to survive, even if it means your suffering is the price. Vision is the relinquishing of that. It goes, I'm willing to pay any price to manifest my vision life into reality, because I don't need it to be visible to know that it can happen. And when you have true appreciation for the role that your vision is playing in your life, you can start to entertain it a little bit more. Because I think we suppress our vision. We start seeing what life could look like and we go, don't get ahead of yourself. Just remember, you haven't had much success yet. And just remember what your mum said about your dad or your sibling or your friend. Do you remember what they said the other day? They're probably right. You're probably not going to make it. You should probably just give up before you start and take the safe option. They might not see it, but you need to find out for yourself, even if you can't understand it. I think we do have these callings, these inner knowings, and I think it would be such a waste. It's such a waste of your gift to hide it and play it safe, to be a little pawn in someone else's game, because that's what it is. When you play life safe and you do what others think of you, you're just being a pawn in someone else's game. Be the king and be the queen of your own life. Be the creator. Don't settle for this fucking little puppet in someone else's show. Make your own show. Number 20. Men want to solve problems, not be the problem. Let me repeat that again. Men want to solve problems, not be the problem. Now, I think the mental health messaging is flawed. Now, I'm not going to say this is some subjective conclusion, some opinion piece. It's a genuine fact from the data when you look at the last 20 years. Now, all the messaging has been focused on the same thing, awareness. You know, it's okay to not be okay. And look, that's been beautiful because it allows men who have suppressed a lot of feelings to open up. Hey, I don't have it figured out. I'm not okay. And I think that has definitely saved lives. It's definitely allowed spaces for growth in connection. But I also see the other side of the story where at the root of male psychology is a deep yearning to want to be the man, which means to lead their own lives, to take ownership and responsibility, and to be the hero in their own story. It's fundamental to a man to be, at his core, connected to his own power. And a lot of the mental health messaging is making him feel weaker. There was a study done, and Chris Williamson talked about it, how 91% of people who committed suicide, and I don't remember what cohort this was, they reached out for help. They reached out for help, and it didn't work. And to bring in the Demartini method, quickly, I won't go deep into it, because I'm probably not the best person to articulate it. We can bring Mitchell Vickridge back on for it. But a lot of those people who are struggling, they're repeating the same story. It's based on a therapy model that has them as the victim to life. And that contradicts at the core what makes men feel powerful. It's ownership of their life and feeling in control. And it's quite nuanced because it's a person-by-person example. But I think a lot of our social messaging is the feminization of men. It makes them feel weak. It makes them feel like, it makes them feel like they can just flop around through life. But I think men feel their best when they're solving problems, they're being men, they're being strong, they're empowering each other, they're raising the standards. I've seen it time and time again in high performance. I've seen it time and time again in my own life. I want to be a leader in my life, in my relationship, in society. We're driven to do that. We are biologically primed to be leaders. And if all the messaging is just, hey, you don't have to, it's not calling upon the strengths of men that are actually ingrained into us. I think we need awareness still. I'm not going to say that it's a one-size-fits-all approach and we should stop saying, because I think different messages call to men at the same time. But if we don't counterbalance mental health messaging with actual other solutions, and I think the Demartini method is one of those powerful solutions for men because I've done it in my own life. It's changed my life. Numbers won't change. society is not going to change. And you're seeing the result in society of an over-feminization of men. You're seeing it. Doesn't matter if I'm saying it. Doesn't matter if who's saying it. You can see it clear in day. And that's my opinion. So, can't be wrong, can it? Number 21. Freedom means you aren't controlled by outcomes. Whatever happens, I'm at peace with life. I've been reflecting upon what actually freedom is. And there's so many beautiful books and quotes, and you've got Viktor Frankl, and you've got all of these ideas about what it means to truly be free in this world, from the letting go of the ego to the spiritual side of just being able to be okay with whatever happens. I just think freedom's as simple as you're not controlled by outcomes. You're not dictated by the external environment. And I think when you've done some subconscious work and you know what beliefs are driving the emotions, because when you have a belief about who you are and what the outside world is, when it doesn't go according to that belief, it creates an emotion, which is actually a distortion of reality. And what I'm trying to say is, that's not freedom. Let's say someone says something that you don't agree with, right? And it creates tension inside, anxiety. That's because you have a belief which is tied to everyone needs to agree with me, or your worth might be tied to, being an expert in something, or whatever it is. It's quite hard to talk in specifics, but what my point is, when the outside world isn't congruent with what your inside world is, it creates tension, and you're controlled by what happens in the outside world. I think true peace is whatever happens in life, I accept. And the acceptance is the letting go of resistance. And the resistance comes because of the belief system. It doesn't mean there's not going to be fucking suffering and pain and shit's not going to go to plan and you're not going to be perfectly figuring it out. And I think you've got to allow a space for fucking your human experience. But I think it's important to think about, what does freedom look like? Because if you never think, what does freedom in my life look like? Because a lot of people say, what's your greatest goal? And what do you want to feel? It's like, I want to feel free. I want to feel at peace. If you don't know what you're aiming towards, you're probably not going to take action, or you're probably not going to be self-aware in the right way, because you're going to be focusing on the wrong thing. So whenever I have a reaction to something, I'm overly sensitive, overly critical, overly emotional, it makes me curious. Why am I controlled by this thing? Why did I react so much from my ego? Why am I not just at peace with what happened? And usually it can tie it down to a belief and a perception. Doesn't mean you have to over-fixate on controlling that, but sometimes it's really useful to be like, okay, there's a bit of work to do. That's okay. And that's fine. I think we've got this over-obsession with doing the work and needing to over-analyze every single thought. But if you do really want to master yourself and do the self-mastery work, it's a good framework to have. Because when you're controlled from an egoic perspective and something happens on the outside that isn't congruent with in a belief system, you'll get the feedback, you'll get the resistance to it, and it lets you know where you might be being controlled. And usually what we have the most resistance to is probably the limiting belief that's holding us back the most. A good one to think about. Last couple. How many have we got? 4 to go. 22. Our expectations are too high to ever feel satisfied. Now, I don't even need to explain this one too much. I think we all can agree. Our expectations, we've created this, what happens is we create this fantasy life in our head, and it's usually to run away from the reality of our life right now. So we might start, and this is different to manifesting your life and going, hey, what do I want? How do I create it? We escape the pain we feel by avoiding it, not feeling it, dissociating into this fantasy into our mind. And usually what happens is we start going, I'm striving towards this, and everything's for this North Star. But this North Star is not a North Star. It's literally just a rocket ship out of the valley that you never wanted to be in. And I think a lot of the time we create expectations from a place of lack. Usually how you feel is reality minus expectations. Do you ever, I'll give you a prime example. I found this the other day. I was lifting a box, and I thought it was going to be really heavy because it was like a bucket that usually like 20 kilos. And I primed myself that this was going to be hard. Like I went to lift it like it was 20 kilos because I know what 20 kilos feels like. And I went to pull that really hard. It was so light. And I was like, isn't that a great metaphor for life? When you expect it to be hard, it's often quite easy. Because it still wasn't light. It was about 5, 6, 7, whatever kilos. But it was so easy. Like I was like, holy crap, that's light. Same thing happens to our life. When we expect things to be hard, and when you have that front of mind, everything relative to that becomes a bit easier. Because it's the expectation that life should be easy, one-sided, all pleasure, no pain, no struggle. We start to resist it. It's like going into that lift and going, oh, it's going to be 5 kilos, and let's say it's 20 kilos, and it's really hard. But when we expected it to be 20 kilos and we lifted it, it felt right. It felt what we expected. And I think every individual will change case by case about how they do this, so they're not just, expecting life to be shit and creating it, to confirm a subconscious belief. Because when you have a subconscious belief of life is hard, life's against me, you can keep recreating it. But I think it's important to see that life will bring you love, joy, happiness, but it'll also bring you challenge, suffering, and problems, so you can evolve into the person as well that you really want to be. So got to see both sides of it too. I think every individual case by case will change, but our expectations are too high. I think we're creating a lot of high expectations to avoid how we actually feel in the moment. And we're not seeing how the pain and the challenge and the suffering is serving us. When you let go of the need to have this fantasy vision, in the sense of when you're struggling, allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to actually be in your body and be with yourself, and not just escape into the mind where it feels comfortable to be in control. And I think that'll ground us a lot. Be operating more from love then. Next one. And this is a really good linkage. 23. Taking action in the absence of a positive mood will be the difference in your success. I think this is so true. I think this is, if there's anything I've learned from this year, it's you can't let your mood dictate your action. Follow the plan, not your mood. Action is an investment of energy. It does create exponential growth. And when you're building something in your life, it creates so much momentum. It creates an energy force. And if you rely on feeling good to do the thing, you're going to be waiting a long time sometimes. If you're waiting for the proof that you're ready to do the thing. And it's counterintuitive, but when you take action in the absence of a positive mood, it usually creates a positive mood. You know what I mean? It sounds pretty obvious in retrospect. When you're doing something good, you're like, oh, of course going to the gym was going to make me feel good, because don't wait to feel ready. Because when I think, what is hesitation? What is the uncertainty that we feel? It's actually just a resistance to the pain. And when I say pain, it's like the pain of like, I'm not going to perform in the gym as well as possible. The podcast I'm about to record is not going to be that good. The business might not work out. It's a resistance to reality. When you accept that, okay, even if it does go to the shitter, I'm going to learn something. It's going to actually make me stronger as a person. When you see that it will benefit you, no matter how it plays out, it can remove some of that resistance. Just taking action in the absence of a positive mood will be the difference, because most of the time you're probably not going to wake up, absolutely on top of the world, like, yeah, I want to do this thing, because sometimes it can be a grind. But I quickly realized when you're taking action, it will create energy. And if you're in doubt about it, do the thing for 10 minutes. Just try it for 10 minutes, whether it's the gym, whether it's recording an episode, whether it's writing notes, whatever it is, do 10 minutes. And if you still feel like absolute shit, then there's probably other things that need addressing in your life. But usually it's just a lack of inspiration, because it's fear holding us back. Do the thing, and your true calling to do the work will be expressed through, you'll feel it and you'll be like, holy shit. Sometimes you just got to start and it'll take care of itself. Number 24. If there is any solace in building something big, it's that it will become easier as a byproduct of your early work. Everything you invest into will give you exponential reward. The study, the networking, the small incremental improvements are building the character and the competency required to be successful. So there is peace to be found in the pursuit, knowing that you will yield exponential returns for the same amount of energy in the future. I love this, because at the start of a journey, you put 1 unit of input, you probably get 0 outcomes basically. When I did my first 20 podcasts, no one was listening. And I'm sure I'll probably say that relative to now, but every time you take 1 unit of input, over time, the output grows and grows and grows. And if you look at a graph, it's usually exponential, because 1 unit of input in the future creates usually 10,000x what you did at the start. So if there is any solace in building something in your life, whether it's a business or relationship, everything exponentially grows. It doesn't grow in a linear fashion. And it can be hard to comprehend because it's like we think of it like, okay, let's say you're working a job and you're getting the same paycheck and your savings is going up in a linear fashion. Life doesn't reward you through fulfillment and through understanding in that way. It's usually an exponential. Usually it's all this work that doesn't make sense. Your nose to the grindstone and life isn't really making sense. And then all of a sudden everything just grows, whether it's a moment of success or a moment of inner clarity and inspiration or just a total inner knowing that, yeah, I did the thing and I'm so happy I'm on this path. It's going to be exponential. And you're building the character as well. So when you're doing something meaningful and you're in the training grounds and it feels quite tiring and exhausting, just have that solace. And when I say solace, it just means have the comfort in knowing that it's building the person you want to become. It will create the character capable of achieving the dreams. And a lot of the time as well, when I talked about competency, it's building the skills that you need, because to be successful at anything, you need certain skills, and skills are built on the training ground, not in the stands. So have solace knowing that your rewards are going to be exponential in the future. You know, people say 20s is for learning, 30s is for earning. It's the same concept for when you're building something meaningful and big in your life, whether it's a family's the same thing. It's big, it's meaningful. Like you put a lot of early work into building the relationship where it's like creating the standards that you communicate to each other through, maybe going through some conflict and figuring out, you know, especially if you're in your 20s and you're, you know, haven't done much of the inner work, like it's going to be a lot of front end work where the hardest bits are going to be at the start, but then you understand how each other works, you understand how the business works, and it becomes easier in the sense of, because you understand it, you know, there's less resistance to it because you get it. And I think that's something that you understand what I'm saying. Usually a lot of life is front-ended in the sense of when you've learnt something, you've truly learnt it. You don't have to learn it again. Yes, you might make a mistake and you might not do it perfectly, but you've invested into the personal capital in your life. And that is a nice thing to know when you're putting a lot of effort into building something in your life. It's nice to know that it's going to be with you for a long time and it's not going to go away. And everything you're working towards isn't going to just dissipate when you stop thinking about it. It's nice. Number 25. Life is made up of moments. Someday we would do just about anything to be into the moments we're in right now. So remembering that more when we wish away a moment can sometimes be the key to peace. I find there's two parts to this. It's about enriching the good moments, because I think we overlook a lot of the amazing things we have in our life because we're so fixated on the future. And I think we resist a lot of the pain and the suffering and the growth that we need through the valley because we don't understand why it's happening and we don't realize how it's serving us. So life is made up of those moments, some good, some bad, and I think enrich the good ones, really lean into feeling them, and lean into the bad ones too. Understand it's building the character of the person capable of achieving the dreams that you truly want to achieve. And I've felt that in my own life a lot recently. And I think one day you would just wish to feel anything. I think there's nothing worse than being dissociated. I think everyone's had that moment where you live in your head, but where you feel so disconnected from your body, you would do anything just to feel what it's like to be a human again. And I think we don't realize how much abundance there is in this world and how special it is to actually feel something, to actually be alive and be human. Life is made up of many moments, some good, some bad, but they all serve a role, or else they wouldn't exist. So remember that more when you're in a good moment. Remember this is special. It's meant to be enjoyable. Life is meant to be fun. And I've really been able to lean into some good moments recently because I feel like I've focused on that. And people might think, well, that's just, overthinking your way to life. But we live life through our mind at times, and it's okay. We do need reminders. We do need to be reminded that life is made up of moments. Enrich them. Really lean into them. Focus on them. And you'll be surprised that they often take you over, and there's just a presence that comes about it. And sometimes you just need to remind yourself that. You need that gentle reminder. because I think there's a lot of fear for people building something big. I feel this in myself, that you're going to let go of your dreams. That, you know, it's 6 o'clock and you're watching a movie with your partner and shit, if I don't think about my dream that I'm building tomorrow, I'm going to let go of it. That's the ego talking. It's fear. Really, really think this is why are you building the dream anyway? A lot of it is to have moments that you're having right now. So we sacrifice the thing we want in order to get something to give us the thing that we already have right in front of us. Williamson talks about that a lot, Chris Williamson, and I couldn't agree more. Life is made up of little moments, good and bad. They're all playing a role. If you understand yourself truly, you'll understand why they're happening and how to lean into them. Try it. See how it goes. Yeah. That's the end. It's 25 lessons from 2025. It was really nice, really nice. It was good to sit down and finally do this and get this out in a couple of days. I feel really grateful right now. You know, this is just a point in time and you take what you can from this episode. You know, my audience is slowly growing and I'm excited to keep going on this journey with you. I'm just a fellow human figuring it out, trying my best to provide as much value as possible because I know what it's like to feel helpless. I know what it's feel like to have no answers in life for who you are and what to do to get the life you want. And I've made it my mission to bring everyone along for that ride, bring as many answers as possible because I think anything's possible when you set your mind and your heart and your soul, they're all in coherence and they're all in alignment. Things happen for you. And we're just getting started. 2025 was a testing year personally for my dreams. And there were times where I didn't put in the action necessary. And I've had many pivotal moments that I haven't gone into today that have really put this shit back in the right direction. And I have a vision and I'm super grateful that it's unfolding and I'm loving every moment, good, bad, as we spoke about in those moments. So thank you again. It's been a privilege to talk to so many incredible people. And 2026 is going to be a big year. Many special guests already lined up. Super keen to dive deep into the conversations and bring as much value to you as possible. I hope you enjoyed my reflections. And yeah, once again, we're in it together. See you in the next one.